Fox logo. Remember we tried something they wouldn't let us do on the Fox logo?
Yeah, it was a Predator.
Right around here, it went to Predator Vision. Right there. And then the sound was muffled and it was blue and green and red. And we thought it'd be cool, but because then they put up their 75th anniversary and we knew, they're not going to let us do it.
They weren't going to allow it.
And they said, it's very cool, but yeah, we can't do that. And actually, nice fancy new Troublemaker logo. So we're going to jump right into the movie. We're going to talk about a lot of things. I'm Robert Rodriguez. This is my compadre.
Hey, I'm Nimrod Antal.
And boom, here we go. Free fall. Cut to the free fall. Let's explain this free fall because people wonder, they think it's a great opening for the movie. It wasn't originally the opening.
Yeah, we had I think there was an introduction for Royce's character initially, and we were going to get a little insight into his character.
Mm-hmm. We had him starting off showing what he does, who he is, get a sense of him to pay off later in the movie, and there would be a flash of light. He would have just taken someone out being a predator himself, and then he's taken by a predator. You don't see the predator. You just see a flash of light, and then he wakes up in a free fall.
Yeah, but I think it was through our conversations we realized that what a much more dynamic way to start the film was just bang, free fall, almost this horrific nightmare coming true.
Everyone who read, there was so few of us actually read. We didn't pass the script around to very many people. Drew Cavello over at Fox and ourselves and the writers, we all just sort of looked at this and said, that's when the movie really starts. I wonder if we could get away with just dropping him. And it started feeling more and more like this was going to be a 2-act movie because we kind of got rid of, there were no character introductions really into their previous life. Normally, them hitting the planet would probably be Act 2 of a regular movie, but we were starting almost in Act 2. I remember we thought, that's kind of a tricky, when you try to mess around with a 3-act structure, it doesn't usually work out. You know, people are kind of used to a formula, but I know that was one of the things that attracted me to your vision of the movie was you wanted to hit the ground running and keep that relentless pace. And I never told you this, but as you were describing that, I would be like, I wonder if we could sustain that for a whole movie. But I knew you wanted to try it, and I thought it would be worth trying. And man, you really pulled it off. It really flies, and the movie it hits the ground running. It doesn't stop until, as you'll see later, the breath that happens with Fishburne's character. But no, it's just nonstop, and it's people that I've talked to already who've seen it love that pace and love that thing about it. Love that about this movie. So hats off to you, man.
Thank you, brother. Well, it was you giving me the chance, man, and it was just so much fun being able to run with it and see it come to fruition the way it did. So I wanted just to say something about the earlier scene, the free fall. Mm-hmm. Jeff Dashnell, our stunt coordinator, came in with this awesome idea early on about incorporating actual live images, real footage of free falling with our actor on the green screen and the marriage of those images, and I just thought it really added this energy that we wouldn't have been able to get otherwise.
Yeah, and this is great because people are just settling down with their popcorn, and then someone's falling from the sky and hitting the ground hard. And, there was a few other bodies I think in the original script that we had hitting the ground here.
I think Danny actually called at one point and said, hey, I read that there was this character that looks like Danny Trejo, and hey, guys, I look just like Danny Trejo.
How that happened was, we'll get into how I'd written an original script for this back in '95, but it had Arnold throughout the whole script, so we had to update it, and I was working on Machete at the time. I brought in a couple of writers, Mike and Alex, to come in and write this draft, and they wrote this character in because they loved Machete. You loved Machete too. You wanted Machete in the movie too.
Oh man, come on! I mean, Danny Trejo is someone who I grew up watching, and if you ever have a chance to work with greatness,
this Trejo's the man. So, but I was at the point where I'd already just put him in so many movies, and he was in Machete. I said, I can't make it that easy for him. Where we just hand him the role. Now here's Adrien Brody being badass. This was a great casting choice, I think, by our part. I mean, it was one of those things where and people ask why we did it, and I think now that they see it, they can see why.
How many play?
But it's just, I mean, the way I've explained it to people is it was the same with when I cast Antonio and and not having done
George
action, and George
Clooney
Clooney never having done a
Dustin
role like that. It's just when you're looking at that list of actors, and we went through that on this, of people that would play this role, you've just seen them do it so much before. I mean, it becomes a joke when you go to the movie to come see this movie, and you see a trailer before it with that same actor in a trailer being the same part in another movie, that you wanted somebody new, fresh. Yeah, what's great about Adrien is you get the best of both worlds, and that you've never seen him do this role, so you feel like you're discovering a new actor. Yet he's got the experience of somebody who's got an Oscar already.
Oh my goodness!
And who's got this, raises the level of acting throughout the movie for everybody, raises up to that level, and so you get the best of both worlds in that way. And whenever you have an Oscar-winning actor wanting to be in a Predator movie, you put him in the Predator movie.
I think it'd be a foolish thing not to think about it, at least. And what I also thought was interesting is, if we would have gone with an Arnold-esque look, if we would have gone with someone of that type, I think we would have been persecuted for just doing that. I mean, we didn't want to remake it. We didn't want to redo what had already been done. And I think going the exact opposite direction was really what it needed.
It was I think we talked about that early on as well, realizing that, and seeing the first movie, hey, Arnold, as big and as strong as he was, he didn't beat the Predator, really. The Predator blows himself up, and Arnold looks like he's off to the loony bin at the end, in the helicopter. So it's like, what else would these Predators be looking for? They've already fought that type. And the whole story idea we had for this was the Predators evolve through combat, through hunting different prey from different planets, from different walks, and that's why they would pick this group to learn from serial killers to snipers to a mercenary like Royce, to get a different feel. Now they've been booby trapped before by Arnold, so that's why later in this movie they'll know how to get around a human booby trap, because they've already figured that one out. Now they need new prey to learn new skills. So that made sense story-wise too, not to go the route that had already been explored in the first Predator.
In the meantime, here we've been introduced to Oleg's character, Nikolai, as well as Alici Braga, who was someone I know that initially the character of Izzy was terrifying for me, and I was always worried that it would come off, the character would come off as a prop more than anything, if we didn't really have an actress capable of making the character believable and carrying it the way she did. And I recall it was one of our conversations where you looked up and said, hey, what do you think about Alici Braga? And I remember seeing her in a film, and I don't recall the film. It wasn't really that great, but all that I remembered was her, how powerful she was, and just what a great actress she was. So I think she was one of the biggest gifts that we could have gotten on this film.
We really lucked out, because she was considering not acting for a little bit. She had to go back to Brazil and do some work down there, and she was going to get on a plane. And I said, please put her on tape, because we're desperately in need of somebody, and we really think she's the girl. And she went on tape, and we were looking at a postage stamp size screen on my computer, because they'd put it up on the internet for us to look at, and we could tell just off of that she was the gal. And I said, can we hire her, please? And you walked over, you looked at it, you said, here, let me see it. And you went, oh, absolutely. It was hands down, she was the person for the role.
No,
because
she was a gift.
I know, remember, we had that fear. We didn't have it really on the page yet, that character. And that was one of the things, we had discussed. I know you had discussed actually coming up and saying, I think we should probably just drop this character, because if we cannot do this character right, it just shouldn't be in there, because it's going to stick out like a sore thumb. And I didn't want to give up on it yet.
And I was so happy you were persistent about it, because now I have to tell you, Izzy is one of the coolest characters in the movie.
Characters. And we got so lucky. And why does that work? I mean, I remember it was easy to say at the time. I said, well, we got to try, because if we can do it right, you've got, Sarah Connor, you've got Ripley, you've got a classic female character in one of these sci-fi action films that people remember forever. And I remember even as I said that, I was thinking, how the hell are we going to do that?
Yeah, it sounds good on paper, but let's see how I'm practicing.
Concept-wise, but everyone's always tried that, and very few people have pulled it off. But it's the combination of getting the right character written on the page, and then getting the right actor to really pull it off. And man, I don't know anyone else who could have pulled it off like her. She really was tough as nails, very human. She's the heart of the story, and she just draws you in and just breaks your heart, at the same time.
And I think now that we're being introduced to the last of this crazy band of travelers, we've since met now Walt and Ollie and now Topher as well, and I got to tell you, man, it's just it makes my job so easy when you have people of this caliber with you, and the things that they bring, and much like you said about Elitsi, you know, they wasn't always there on paper, and the things that they were able to interject and to elevate the characters, yeah, it just makes me realize more and more you really are only as good as the people you surround yourself with.
Yeah, I mean, I've always liked casting up in a movie that's especially a genre picture where things are so fantastical and just literally out of this world. A movie like this, we're on another planet. Like, you're thinking, is anyone going to buy this? But I'm already getting chills thinking about this scene coming up later. When Laurence Fishburne pulls off his helmet and starts talking, I believe everything this guy says.
That's right.
I believe every word that he's saying is true. I'm there. I'm on the planet. I totally believe that he's hunted and killed at least 2 predators. He doesn't probably remember. He's probably killed 10. I mean, I just seen it in his eyes. I mean, the story value these characters bring, that was really important. It's something that I tend to call story value, is that you don't really even need to see that much or know that much about a character. If there's just a few hints of who they are and the actor brings it in their eyes, you can make up entire storylines around these people because they breathe that much life into it. And Walt, we're going to talk about Walt, what a find, the guy you believed in from the beginning. You know, all these actors here just brought that. You know, Louis here, who says nothing except for one
and says
thing.
so much.
Says so much with his presence and his eyes, and it really just pulls it off.
Yeah, it was funny. I mean, Walt's someone who I especially was a fan of and wanted to work with for a long time. But the intensity that he brought every day, and just the humor that he brought to the film, I think, is something that we're gonna always be grateful for. It's just, it really, he was super, man.
Great having that presence there. Oleg here, I remember when we looked at his tape. Again, a lot of these people we cast off tape because we had to move so quickly. And we'll explain why in a second. But we saw him, and I said, he looks like a Russian Charles Bronson. He's in. He's in. And then I saw him perform. God, what heart this guy had. I mean, you could just see that he was going to bring this real pain and heart to this character. And there was just a muscle-bound, almost our stand-in for an Arnold character when they originally wrote it that way. And wow, what a performance he brings to it. And somebody was telling me that, you know, when his big scene comes up, it broke their heart.
But they didn't want to see him go.
They did not want to see him go. And that's really, you know, a testament to the acting of this.
I remember the first day, just we popped off that first shot, and we all kind of just looked at each other after Oleg, you know, gave us his first performance. And it was just that moment of realization that, oh, he's good.
Man, that's awesome.
He looks great. He fits the bill, but he's a good actor. So
there's something to why we had to shoot this so quickly. And the studio brought me this picture. I mean, it's been a long process, and then it's been a very fast process. In that, originally I was supposed to make this. I was supposed to just write it back in '95, '96. It was only a writing assignment. I was going to do Desperado as a directing gig, and I needed get some extra money, and asked my agent, hey, you know, I'm just sitting around for a few months. Is there a writing gig around town? And writing gigs are never good. Here, lame assignment. Oh, Fox has a Predator project over at Fox. And my eyes lit up because I loved the first Predator. So I'll do that. You go write something for Arnold. Okay, they're going to try to lure Arnold back to the Predator series because he wasn't a part of part 2. And they said he doesn't really want to do another Predator movie, but we think if he reads a script, that might be able to convince him, you know. So let's just start with the script. And I talked with Arnold, and he was like, we have to go back to the jungle. None of that city stuff, you know. So I thought, well, we can't really go back to the jungle, per se, without feeling repetitive. But if we go to another planet, and have a jungle setting on the other planet, then that'll satisfy both things of feeling like we're expanding the universe and getting Arnold back in the jungle. I wanted to get him back into a movie somehow. That was my job. So I wrote this script. And it was crazy. It was tons of, I think you read the original. There was tons of stuff going on. It was probably like a $200 million movie back then. But because I wasn't directing it, I didn't have to worry. I just wrote it as big as I want. I knew they'd figure it out and cut out what they didn't want. And Arnold ultimately wanted to go ahead and do movies that, other movies, so he didn't do it. And right around that time, the comics for Alien vs. Predator came out. And so they decided to make those movies. And I kind of forgot about this till last year, around May of last year. Right now we're talking, and it's not even July yet. So this was about a year process making that, a little bit less. it was very fast. You were hired right about now, a year ago.
Yeah, I was hired in June, I think, of last
looking
year.
at my first draft of an outline from the writers that had a storyline pretty close to what we have here. Keeping the idea of the Predator planet from my original script, the crucified Predator, the different clans and the
Tribes.
Predator, different tribes and hierarchy of Predators. We tried to keep some of that we liked, but pretty much had to start over, split Arnold into 7 or 8 people and make the movie from there. I got that on June 4th last year, 2009. So it was a very fast process. For me, I felt I'd been making the movie for a long time, and I've only thought about this now. No wonder you felt so rushed. You would say, I need more prep time. And I would think, no, you don't, because to me, I'd been working on it 15 years. I think, how much more time do we need? But no one else had that time. So everyone, the crew, had to put everything together very quickly. We had to cast very fast. I know when we hired Adrien and Elise, Adrien was like, yeah, I'm down. I'm going to get in shape, and I'm going to be able to do this role. I know I can do this role. When do we start? I said, well, that's the bad news. We start in a week and a half. He's like, what? And I said, well, the characters just sort of get dropped onto the planet unprepared. So everybody will be in character when they start this movie, because that's how everyone has to begin. And that's what we did. I mean, you had to helm it, but I'm sure you had to struggle with that every day, with getting people confident enough to know that they could do this on such short notice. But that's, I think, what was the fun of it, was just throwing these people into this whole, crucible of terror.
No, well, I felt a lot of parallels with the Royce character. I was thrown into Austin, and I had to finish the mission.
Yeah,
and it was something that was terrifying. I think it was the most. I blood in my stool, vomiting, just everything you could imagine. And I also have to say that beyond the fact that you're trying to do a film based on a franchise that is one of the hugest, science fiction franchises around. I had a barber in Budapest who had a Predator tattoo, so it got around the world. But then also the fact that I'm going to be working for you, that was something that was nerve-wracking initially. I was a huge fan of yours. When I was dreaming about making films, and in film school, you were out there doing it and doing it well, and it was something that proved, when we got into the actual process, was all just in my mind. I was creating this paranoia in my mind. Was it the anxiety? I don't know, but it turned out to be the biggest gift, because now we're sitting here and I have a film that I directed I'm very proud of. And it was you that gave me this chance, so it's something that I'm always going to be grateful for.
No, I was so happy that you took it on.
No, it was an awesome experience. I could say this now because I don't have any blood in my stool anymore, and I'm a little calmer now because I think we were successful. But it's incredible how that energy, that frenetic madness of you have so much to accomplish in so little time. And I think that somehow translated to the actual film, and there seems to be this, I don't know, there's this electricity about it. So all the practical difficulties that we ran into, one, translated to this wonderful energy, but also forced us to think in ways which, I remember you always telling me, dude, don't turn on the money hose, try to do it this way, try not to turn on the money hose. And I always considered myself very, very frugal and efficient, but you made me kind of investigate and take another look at that. So
what was amazing that you took all that to heart, because it just sounds like words, and in a way it's easy to say, but it's much harder to do, because you have the challenge. You have this challenge that you had to, like you were saying, you're having to live up to this franchise. You want to deliver something good. And we're about to start. It sounds like a recipe for disaster. We're barely hiring the actors. We barely got our script together. We don't even have the Predator creatures yet, and we're going into production. I mean, that's what you're not supposed to do. But it was the only way we could get this movie made, because they needed it for this summer. And it's like that was our mission. So it was almost like, I know we should be very anxious about this, and I was trying to get that across to myself also. We can worry about it later when we're done. Right now, we just kind of have to do it, and then we can look back and go, how the hell did we do that? Because we will get there. I said, you have to trust me, we will get there. But it's going to be hard. And like you say, you had the pressure of having to carry this movie on your shoulders. And as a producer, people say, "What was it like to produce? Is it harder? Is there more stress?" And I was like, "No, it's cakewalk." I didn't realize how much easier producing is than directing. I so much appreciate directing more and directors now that I've gotten to step back and see, watching you go through it. It was the strangest experience to see you there with my crew, answering questions, sitting at your desk, because
That's your crew.
I pictured myself sitting there, but it was like I was having an out-of-body experience, seeing you sitting there like I would be right then, looking at my crew. And I went, wow, this is so strange hearing you answer these questions that I normally would have to. I feel none of the pressure that I know you're feeling right now, because I know what that feels like, having to make these decisions and answer questions on a daily basis at lightning speed. And you asked, "Do you want any of this?" I went, "No, it's all for you, man."
No, but speaking to that, but speaking to that, man, and I think one of the, whether this was a conscious decision on your part or not, I don't know, but one of the greatest things you did was you showed me you believed in me, and you really let me dance, and that is the biggest. And I think that the only reason you knew that was being a filmmaker. You understand how important it is to let the filmmaker go and let them feel like they're in control, even if they're not all the time. Well, and it was a great feeling to have your trust, and that actually motivated me even more.
I can explain, knowing the two sides of that now, why that is, and it's because I would be there to offer advice whenever you need it and help, and here's some ideas if you want, don't have to use them. And people would say, "Do you ever tempted to go in and change this or that?" You go, "No, you absolutely cannot," because even if I were to go to ask you, you have all the balls in the air. You're carrying the whole movie on your shoulder, and somewhere in your head, you've got it all figured out. Director has it all figured out. But if you go and ask them specifically, "Do you have this part figured out?" they might not be able to tell you, and it doesn't mean they don't. So if you go and you suddenly say, "Well, why is that red? Could you make that blue?" they might say, "Okay, yeah, I guess, let's go ahead and make it blue." And then you've just taken a brick out of the thing that they've put together that's going to fall apart later and come bite you in the ass. And you should not say a damn word. You should just leave him alone. He's got it all in his head. He's got it all worked out.
Give him enough rope to hang himself.
Believe the fact that he knows what he's doing, because I've been there and I don't have all the answers consciously, but I do subconsciously, I think. So I totally had to leave you alone to do it. And it was a great choice to actually shoot this digitally, because when I would walk on the set, I would see what you guys were doing, and I would just, "It looks fantastic. It looks better than anything I'd ever shoot. This thing looks fantastic, and the acting is so great, and and you're doing it." It was the best job to have, because I got to enjoy the process of making a Predator movie, seeing you at the helm, putting together something that, we went through a lot of discussions beforehand, and we were always making the same movie, but it was a great experience to come on the set and see. Even though we talked about it and we knew we were working from the same script, I'd see you approach, in a scene like this completely differently from how I would shoot it. And I would learn so much. And I told you that, I think, at the beginning. Well, this is going to be great. I know you look up to me as a filmmaker because I've been doing it for a long time. But, dude, you're always a film student. I'm still learning, and I'm going to learn. Selfishly, I'm bringing you into this so that I can learn more from you than you'll ever learn from me.
Well, I don't know if that's true or not.
It's really true. No, because it gives you a completely different perspective. It's why I do so many different jobs. It's not because I think I'm actually good at them. I know I suck at all of them, but it gives you a different perspective. It gives you a different perspective, and it makes you better at your central job to do those other jobs. And to be a producer and see you do this on the set day to day. It's why I kept trying to sneak on the set and listen to what you told an actor, because it would be different from what I told an actor. And the result would be different. And I wanted to learn from that as well, because everyone has a different approach. And no, directors don't usually get to see other directors direct. So it's not like with actors, they get to see other actors work all the time because they work with other actors. Directors are very solitary. They work on their own productions. And I'm always trying to visit directors to see how they solve the same problems, because there's no one right way to do things.
Yeah.
So my right way would be different from your right way. You would get a great result no matter what. So that's why I didn't want to get in the way of anything you were doing, because I completely believed in you. And the reason was, I think when I first met you, I just, you just felt something first on a gut level. I liked you as a person. I knew the crew would get along with you great. I knew that if we were going to be married for a year that we made this, I wanted to make sure you were a cool guy. You were a completely cool guy. And but I saw your first movie, Control. And I knew you were it reminded me of mariachi, that it was very resourceful, what you did, how you solved creative problems. I knew you had that going for you. But then you showed me a movie that wasn't out yet, Armored, where you worked with Laurence Fishburne and, Jean Reno and Matt Dillon.
Yeah.
Very, very strong actor personalities. And I could tell you just got them all to be able to work together. And it reminded very much of when I first saw Reservoir Dogs, and I was so anxious to meet Quentin, which I was about to meet him at a film festival. I said, I got to meet this cat who's able to take these very strong personalities, put them in a room together, and be able to direct them. I was so impressed by that, him being such a young guy, and me being inspired by that as well, that I knew that you were right up there at the top choice, because this is what this movie was going to be, a group of very strong actors. We hadn't cast yet, but I knew I wanted to cast strong actors. And I needed a director that was going to have the experience enough, because I looked at several directors. Some I was thinking, well, should I get a first-time director or a second-time director? I went with, you were the perfect choice because you'd made several films already. You knew how to work with strong actors, and you came in with a really clear vision, which is, I want to make this movie about the hunt. I want this to be relentless, fast-paced, just run and gun the entire film from the moment they hit the ground to the end. And your name even means hunter.
Well, it depends what part of town you're in. It means idiot in other parts of town.
Yeah, but, that's only Bugs Bunny world. But he was calling Elmer Fudd a hunter.
That's right.
Nimrod.
That's right.
But that's really so I knew that was just in your blood to make this about bringing back the hunt and about the hunting tactics and.
Yeah, I mean, well, first being a fan of the original film and loving it, I was so intimate with the material coming in, and then. I think our first conversation, of course, which I was nerve-wracking for me. I was trying to prepare for that for weeks, trying to pitch this idea to you, and all I remember was mumbling something about the most dangerous game. But I think one thing I was able to get across was this idea of incorporating hunting techniques back into the franchise, and it was interesting that there's this universe about a hunter, but the actual techniques of hunting aren't incorporated as much as they could have been. Right. So I think that's when we started talking about flushing, driving, trapping, and all these other cool things. I just wanted to say one thing really quickly, and just going back to, you were saying about how we were able to pull this thing off, and how we had such an aggressive schedule to achieve so much in, and I really want to say the crew in Austin, and the crew in Hilo, Hawaii, and the team that was there, and Yula Padosh, the director of photography, or Stephen Kale, our production designers, Brian Betwe, our AD, Jeff Dashnaw, and I'm doing everybody a disservice that I'm leaving out now, but all these people really bent over backwards to make this thing happen, and they really all went the extra mile, and God bless them and thank them. I thank them for that. I'm so grateful, man.
That was a really cool thing. I'm going to mention the crew in a second, because it was something for me to see again as a producer instead of as the director. I got to appreciate them more than I have on any other movie, and I've worked with some of these cats 15 years.
Sure.
Because I was watching it from afar and seeing what they were pulling off in this time, with you. Hey, we're here in the dog sequence. Talk about this just real quick.
Yeah, well, it was interesting. It was some of it's Hawaii, and some of it is just the outskirts of Texas, Austin, Texas.
That's right. That's right. So it's hard to even tell what's what. We couldn't finish the sequence in Hawaii. We had to leave Hawaii.
Yeah, it was actually. I called you. I think about
which one's Hawaii now in Texas? I can't even tell. Is this Texas?
This is Hawaii, and then this is Texas.
You were like, I got to finish the dog sequence in Hawaii. I said, no, we just got to come back.
Yeah,
that charge us too much money.
I think we were 3 weeks into shooting at that point, and I called you up on the phone, and I said, hey, Robert, you're like, is everything okay? I'm like, yeah, everything's great, man. So you think I could get another day here in Hawaii?
I was like, no, you can't get another day.
You're like,
they'll charge us for another week, no matter what. And
yeah,
it throws
you were
the
like,
whole schedule.
You were like, son, pack it up, get home. Just we'll finish it here.
Something.
We'll finish it here. You said, and I remember thinking to myself, there's just no way in hell we're going to be able to finish this here in Texas. It's just we're in the middle of a eucalyptus forest in Hawaii. Where's their eucalyptus forest in Texas?
A few miles outside of Austin, in Bastrop, there's a pine forest.
There is a pine forest painted white.
This is a funny story of the painted white.
Well, that was actually interesting. We did find a forest that had a similar. The thickness of the trees was similar, and we were able to bring some of the bushes back and dress it appropriately. But there's this one moment where our set painter Michael was painting one of the pine trees in Texas white to match the eucalyptus tree in Hawaii. And one of our eco-conscious crew members steps up and says, "Hey, Michael, is that paint okay for the tree?" And Michael, without even missing a beat, turns around and goes, "Hey, just chill out, man. This is what I use on cows, so don't worry about it."
That's hilarious. So, yeah, this is the dog sequence, which was something I know you worked on for quite a while to get this right in the pre-planning stage, because it was one of the first big effect scenes. So far, it's been introducing the characters and then the planet revealing that they're on another planet. And then I know this is something we switched around in the script because we realized let's have the attack after the planet reveal so that it's scarier knowing that these are some alien dogs chasing
Yeah, it was at
around.
one point it was happening before
It was
the
happening
planet
before, and some of the structural things that we changed, it was good to move it to here. And then we could kind of do whatever we wanted with these dogs, flushing them out. And
I remember being specifically nervous about this scene because I had never had worked with, I never had made a film that required as much CG as this particular scene.
Neither had I. I was worried too because it's different. In my movies, I've always done just complete fantasy films where the part of the charm is the effects don't look that good, because I don't have that much money and you just got to buy into it. And I kind of do that across the board so that when it does come up to a sequence that maybe relies on a lot of effects and it doesn't look real, you're like, well, if you made it look real, it would suddenly take away from the movie.
Well, it almost
at that
complements the story.
It complements the story in those films. And that's always people ask me what my trick is to keep budgets low. It's like, that's part of it, is make that part of the conceit, is that it's supposed to not look, completely realistic. This, however, I know you were going for a straight tone.
Yeah.
I knew that would be much harder to pull off effects in, especially this one that was shot in broad daylight. I didn't know how it was going to look. And our company that we worked with, Hybrid, just did a fantastic job with these creatures. We built some creatures that we took out there. Greg Nicotero and his team built some that we could go out and actually photograph in the light so they would have something to match to.
Yeah, and actually even some of the puppets within the Stan's stabbing scene
Are real.
Were real. Well, the actual puppets can be puppets.
And that's how we were able to get this to look good. I remember you showed me your first cut of this. This is the first scene we had to turn over. You had so little time to turn over a director's cut, and you just chopped through this with Dan. There's another crew.
Dan Zimmerman, yeah, great editor.
And it was a Friday afternoon, and you showed me the scene, and I said, well, let me do a few more little quick cuts here because I know we got to tighten it just a little bit more because the effects guys were going to all have a cow when they see how many shots they have. And we're probably going to tighten it up anyway. So we tightened it up a little more, and then you just said, wow, okay, I'm not scared of this scene anymore. I was really worried about it because it just from the pacing of it, you could tell it was going to be a good scene. But we hadn't even seen the effects yet. And when the effects rolled in, we were very excited at how it looked.
No, and it was interesting. I mean, Troublemaker has three great guys who helped out initially. We had Rodney Burnett, Alex Toder, and Chris Olivia, and then Jabbar helped in with the on-set stuff. He was our on-set supervisor, and it was just a blessing just to have them hold my hand along the process. Because every time I started to have a little mini freak out, they'd always say, "No, it's cool, man. You just pick up that plate and we'll be good. You don't need anything more. Are you sure?" They're like, "Dude, just calm down. We got it. It's all right. This is we got the plate." So it was a blessing. And then when Hybrid came into the process and started to show me, I recall this one day on set where they brought out a laptop and, oh man, the famous photographer's name is not coming to mind. It was a set of animals in profile running.
Yeah, I remember.
Old black and white images. And they brought out a pig, a bison, a dog. They brought out all these different animals, and they were showing us different gaits, different running cycles. It was such a fascinating process for me, given that I had never done anything like this before.
No, that's reference is always key, and that was a great way to see a preview of what a run cycle would look like with them, because that was going to be the basis of the entire scene. And I thought you just did. I mean, I think we just had sort of like a week talking about effects and the idea behind how to approach effects on a movie, and then you were up and running. It was like the easiest film school ever. You were just you learned on the job, and it was and you had it down, and it was you knew how to make things simpler. And any advice I could throw out, I was trying to throw out, but you carried the movie. It was really great to see.
Well, that was also great, just having that opportunity to call you or just hit you up and say, yo, do you have a sec? And you were always there to help. So that was a blessing. But then I also had these other two great gentlemen who were basically my left and right hand throughout the film, Dula Padosh,
Jula's amazing photographer.
the director of photography, who just, the pictures speak for themselves. And then we also had Dan Zimmerman, our editor, who was such a support system. Other than being talented and really understanding, knowing montage, he was just a super support system. And I think he really helped us achieve this impossible post schedule that we had as well.
I like this scare sequence you have here. I thought this was really well done. From the moment you showed me your location scout pictures, I thought, wow, you're really going for some creepy mood here. I'm really looking forward to seeing how you do this. And then Jula's photography really makes it.
Well, you said something early on to me just regarding the locations that you said, I don't want this jungle to look lush. I don't want it. I know that was a concern you had early on, that wherever we go, we can't have a happy.
We needed a really savage
jungle.
And I thought we got to find someplace like China or somewhere where there's scary ass jungles, but it wasn't practical with our schedule. We wouldn't have time to go. We had to go somewhere in the United States because there was no way to get everything across a border somewhere. So we had to do states, and then the choice was, you came back and said, dude, Hawaii is the only place we can go. I went, no, Hawaii, they'll look like they can go lay on a giant leaf somewhere and take a nap. It's going to look too comfortable. And you go, don't worry, I'll find some crappy ass location in Hawaii. And then you came back and you said, I found a really good jungle that no one's going to want to take a nap in. So I thought, okay, good. And then when we packed up to go on location, I was already, by that point, I was tired from finishing another movie. I wanted to go relax in Hawaii. And then I get to Hilo, and I'm like, oh no, we're in Hilo.
It's not the picturesque beaches that you imagine from the postcards.
It was a very tough shoot there. I mean, I was worried people were going to just have silly, accidents carrying equipment, like just breaking their ankles, because everything where you walked was mud and vines, and it was very precarious.
No, it was definitely not the happy jungle that you'd want to hang out in. And the great thing about it, though, is it was the Shipman family property where this was shot, and we had the help of the family and this gentleman Ali, who was basically capable of building a body of water in the middle of the jungle if that's what we needed. And it was an incredible, again, the crew made it happen.
Here we're transitioning to Texas. This is my back parking lot where I shoot the end sequence of Planet Terror, all of the end of Machete, and this. So Machete would be competing for sunlight with for this set, because this set was blocking a lot of the sunlight at the end of the day when we're running out of time. And we'd be like, there's the Predator set. So this thing is contained. This whole set is contained in some train cars. And Steve and Kayla built this and populated it with real trees and dead wood and hanging carcasses. And
an incredible feat. They were under the gun, I think, more than anybody in this production regarding what they had to deliver. And this thing was so big. I don't know how much it comes across. You could see it from an airplane.
Yeah, people would see it from the plane coming in from L.A. Say, hey, we saw your Predators.
Yeah, flying into Austin, you could look out the airplane and see the set.
It was so exciting for me. I've never built a set this big. So when I would take people to see it, from the outside, it just looks like a bunch of stacked train cars. And you walk through this little doorway, and then you open up into this. And it's like you just stepped into another planet. And we used this a lot. The reason you would do it, you wouldn't do it just for this one scene. We come back to this at the end battle, and it's at night in that sequence, very beautifully photographed with fire around the camp. And then in the sides, when they first entered, we added some other tree lines that we would use a lot for a lot of the inserts and smaller scenes. Whenever we needed any jungle pickups that we didn't get somewhere else, we would just go shoot in there. And that was just a great little go-to set besides our interior sets, which we built inside of Troublemaker Studios, where the interior sets are made.
Yeah, for the drill sequence, for instance, and others. And the great thing about this, I wish there was scratch and sniff movies. This location smelled so bad. I don't know what it was.
The water just sitting there so long.
It was just these drying bones and muddy water and everything else. And I was so happy to go home at the end of the day.
This is an exciting scene for me to watch, because this is one of the first scenes I wrote in the original draft, which was the classic Predator crucified. Which means even more to me now, because at that time they had already made Predator 2, and they had changed the design of the Predator quite a bit. And I wanted to show the original Predator from the original movie that Arnold fought with. But it means more now because they've made so many Predator movies and really changed the designs a lot. That when you see him, it's like seeing an old friend. Yeah, you haven't seen him since Arnold's battle, and guys in Nicotero's crew had actually worked on the original Predator for some of the reshoots. They had some of the original, designs and molds, and they could make an exact replica of the original Predator for this crucifixion scene. And it's just great to see it come to life. And you did this great. I love how you shot that.
What is scary? I mean, I was always fascinated by the concept that you guys had in place where you're introduced to this Predator again, but not in the way you would expect. You're seeing him for the first time almost defeated.
Yeah, just stripped of what makes him the Predator that you were used to seeing and you normally fear, and you see him like stripped of everything. He's just practically naked, just hanging there, completely defeated. And I thought that would be a great way to sort of deflate the idea of the Predator and to show that, okay, whatever just hunted him is just something really badass, and we're going to meet him later. Love this kill. Love that kill.
That kill, I think, was born from, at a point, I was realizing we were becoming redundant with certain things, and I turned to Rodney and Alex and Chris over at Troublemaker and said, guys, we need some different kills. And they came up with about 15 disturbing ways to kill people.
And that was a good one. I like that. We looked at the drawings for that and went, oh yeah, this is a good kill. And I think the idea, I don't know if it comes across because it's sort of a pretty cool idea. He gets shot with a projectile, which expands in his body, and that's where all those pins come out of and hit the ground and lift him up. They don't come from the ground; they actually came from inside of his body. So if you watch it again, that's sort of the idea that it goes with it. But yeah, the idea is just to mangle him completely.
So this is like 4 or 5 different locations, both in Texas and in Hawaii.
That's right.
Fronting from the camp, this is still Texas, but the hill starts in Texas and then ends in Hawaii. That's about to come up. So that was also interesting. That's Texas, that's Hawaii.
Dashnaw and his team.
Dashnaw's
work. They're the best work they've done, anything I've worked on. I mean, I don't think I would have ever shot this sequence, I tell you honestly, because I would have said, I'm going to get somebody killed doing that.
Oh, man.
But they love it, and they wanted to do it. And look at the stunts here. This is all real. This is not CG. This is a camera. What is this, on the spider cam?
Yeah, it's a spider cam following them down, descending them down with them. And that right there, Jeremy, bang, that was really painful. Yeah, it was the spider cam rig, and it was something that I think Eula brought it into the process for us at one point and said, this would really help us with some of the dynamic, more, the quicker shots. Of course, you can't jump off of a ledge with a camera following a guy down unless you have the spider cam.
Right. And this was our introduction. This is our first glimpse at the Predators. We have not seen them yet, and we held off and we talked about how far should we wait into the movie to see them. And I think you decided early on that as long as we felt the presence of them at the totem, with a planet reveal, with the dogs, that we didn't really need to see them until now, when you just get your glimpse of them, and you didn't show them very much, which was very cool. I mean, I think I would have tended to. People say, would you do anything different? I go, yeah, I probably would have lingered on them way too long, just falling in love with just how cool they looked. But this was just leaves you wanting more, and you're going to see them more later. So I thought that was really a great, smart choice. I mean, it was one of those scenes where I came in and you're already shooting, and I saw you set up, and I was like, wow, so that's how you're doing it. That's a really cool idea. I never would have thought to do it that way.
We always had that luxury, though, of having the other films to refer to and see what worked in some of them and where some of them may have failed. And I thought the suspense and the tension of the original was something that was lacking from the latter films. And I think that was kind of the intent of trying to keep the monster in the shadows as long as we could and try to just build the mystique around it more.
Yeah. I mean, that was a good thing about the last couple of Predators, which actually I never saw, but I thought, we were able to look at those and say, let's not do that and let's do something else. And I know that was one of the concerns you had was, I don't want to see Royce, Adrien Brody's character, buddy up with a Predator at the end. They've done that. It does not work. You got to find a cool way to do it. Say, well, we got to get them to help them somehow. And you said, okay, but I'm going to do it my way. I figured out a way to do it. It's not going to be, I'm not going to have them looking at each other like some romance novel. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, that one image was something that burned into my memory forever.
You were scared to death of that, and you shot it so well. I could tell that you really danced around that one, and it works. It works really great. I love this scene. This was like a brutal scene to shoot. It was freezing. You can't tell, but their jaws are chattering in here.
And it was a nightmare because when we scouted it, I think Texas was going through a 3-year drought. And we had this wonderful canyon with this body of water in it, but there was no waterfall. So knowing that we had, I think, 7 pages of dialogue.
Lots of water now.
Lots of water now. We had 7 pages of dialogue. We planned to shoot this whole scene here. So we show up the day of, and as we're walking in, we hear this. And that's when we realize there's a waterfall now, because apparently for the 3 weeks that we were shooting in Hawaii, the 3-year drought in Texas had come to an end, and it had been raining day and night for weeks.
Yeah.
So when we came back, there's a waterfall. The actors are looking. We can't even hear each other. It's so loud. And
that was funny that I didn't realize you didn't know there was a waterfall there. I didn't go scout this with you guys because I've been trying to put this location. It's called Hamilton Pool. It's my favorite watering holes there in Austin. I mean, you just go there and it's just the best, gorgeous place, and it has a big waterfall. I mean, that's the great thing about it. And
not when I scouted it.
And I tried to get it in Spy Kids 1. I tried to put it in Spy Kids 2, and it was just a very difficult location to scout because you have to carry all the equipment down for a mile to get there. And we never could justify it because we didn't have a 7-page scene to ever shoot there. It would have been like the kids popping out of the water, looking around, saying cool, and then getting out. There was never a scene. And I think actors never looked better than here. I think being frozen kind of helps. They look really, really intense, really cool. Like they really want to just get on with the scene and get out of there.
Well, the other thing is we started the scene. I for some reason wanted to have them in the water. I never wanted them to come out of the water completely.
Oh, so all this was supposed to be in the water.
Yeah, so I always envisioned it that they were going to be waist deep in the water. And we shot for about a good 10, 15 minutes, or we set up for that. And I think the actors were in the water for about 2 minutes, and I started to see them turning purple. And that's when we realized this ain't going to work.
Get them out of the water. So yeah, the reason they're like swallowing a lot before each line is because they're freezing cold here. But great scene. Her story there is great. It's a nod to the original Predator. Yeah. Obviously, she's talking about Dutch and his team meeting the first Predator. I love this shot you got here, Louis. He's doing his whole Kurosawa.
He's just so
badass.
Cool, man. It's incredible to watch an actor who has so little to say and just he's just so present, and he's such a badass, and he's going to be one of the most memorable characters in the movie.
Remember originally we were thinking like a Beat Takashi or something like that for this type of role, and then we found this guy who was a much younger guy, but had this. I mean, look at the old soul presence this guy has. And here's Walt. Now Walt originally, I remember one of the things in the script that I didn't care for was it was too much. This character sounded too much like
Hudson,
the Bill Paxton character, which we all love Bill Paxton character.
From
but I've worked with Bill
Aliens
Paxton
film,
before, and I've had Bill do Bill in my own movies because I love it too. And so I was kind of like, but we can't do that because then we're going to so much length to make our own movie here. Even though we need a character like that, we don't want him to be that dead on. And I read what the writers brought back on that, and I just thought it just sounds too much like Hudson. And you'd already cast Walt, and I just thought, you know what, to get really far away from that, I think we should just get a different actor and completely reconceive the part, because I think they're writing too much for Walt doing Bill Paxton, and that's not going to work. And you said, no, but wait a minute, Walt's a really fantastic actor. You don't know his work like I do. I never seen The Shield. I was never got caught up into it enough to watch it. And once I missed it, I just never caught on the train. So I never got to see his work in that. And I'd seen some clips, but I never really got a good sense of him like you knew him and knew what he could do. And so you said, let me fly him down to Austin. You should meet with him and just talk with him about it first, because we've already hired him, and I just really believe in him. Any part that we change it to be, he can be that. So I said, all right, bring him down. And I wasn't feeling that in. And you totally proved me wrong. He walked into the room and he just went off and created this character in front of us
right
in
there.
the room.
That's right.
He came up and he said, you don't want that part? Okay, I'll give you this part. How about this? How about this? How about
that? How you want it?
And I thought he's the director's dream actor. To come with you with that many ideas and be that free-flowing was just, wow, why aren't we rolling the cameras now? And I thought that was just his audition, but no, he does that all the time.
No, he's
was
a
like
rock
that
star
the whole time.
I call him the thief because he's just a scene stealer.
Totally steal the scenes. And you could just whenever we needed anything, script-wise, we'd go, you know what, just throw that line to Walt. He'll make something out of it.
When in doubt, go to Walt.
He'll make something out of it.
This thing was really interesting too, because this is something that was in your original screenplay, and for me, it's what really helped expand this universe even further. And that was the introduction of something else being hunted other than the humans.
Right. So when you saw the little creature bugs earlier from the cages, it ties into this creature here, which was and you had a great design for him, and you called him originally, I think, the River Ghost, and I liked the whole concept of this and how you tied this into the story. I have to just give you, a real, congratulations on how you did this. I mean, you really streamlined the script. There was a lot of ideas, and you tied things in together really well. Everything flows into each other really well. You took some of these ideas, even from my old script, and put them in here in a way that fit into your new ideas, keeping it to where the reveals came at the right time, and you really paced out the picture really well. I mean, you're tying in this creature that was in the cage. He's now bypassing their traps, and now you're going to reveal that it helps expand the world and that there are other things being hunted on this planet.
But that, for me, I mean, that element, and that was present in that 94 draft, was for me, that was the catcher. That was the thing where I said, oh my God, this is a safari planet, and it's not just humans, it's everything. It's the nastiest things from around the universe. And I really grasped that initially early on, and for me, it's one of my favorite moments in the film.
I love this, how you shot this. This is with your spider cam rig. You had the camera on a wire flying through the jungle.
Yeah.
I love all the aiming here. It reminds me of a scene from Jaws or something, the way it's staged.
And Eula was, again, a great help here. I remember the whole thing with cutting back to the actors, come on, and just trying to build that suspense. He really inspired me to take it that direction.
A great Topher line here. Fuck all you.
All of you!
There's and then the reveal. Here, I just like the structure that you did. You cut right to this being how you get into the character of Noland. She shot at it, but missed. I like that whole thing. I remember in the script you were struggled with what the writers put together, and you put your own spin on it, and you fixed this to really work, where you weren't buying this section, and you trimmed it down, and you made it where she says,
yeah,
I didn't, I missed, and then this look of dread on their face, and then this amazing reveal. I know this was one of the coolest things you brought to the picture, because you worked with Laurence Fishburne on Armored, and you guys were great friends already. And you mentioned him early on, where we're trying to find someone to play the scavenger. And this was this your story concept? This whole idea of this character?
Well, it was something
you told me that you wanted this character.
It was something
this guy who would lure like the witch.
Yeah, the witch inviting the children into the oven. It was something that there was a conversation early on, and I think we even had it at one point, and I know the writers and I also discussed it. But we knew that we needed this. We needed to hand the viewers some more information, and it's always dangerous to throw it into a character and say that the character is going to show up and answer all the questions at the right moment, and clearly that was we didn't want to take the cheap route, but we knew that we needed to get some information across, and we also needed an important moment of pause in this in this craziness that's been going on since minute one, and you need someone of Mr. Fishburne's caliber, man, to pull it off.
That's a great way to reveal him there. And you had this idea with that you could borrow from different putting this whole outfit together. It would be part predator helmet, part samurai helmet, part anything that was there from other creatures, from other things, from other planets, from other pieces of history,
from other parts of time. Yeah.
So he's got it all, and he's got this amazing presence.
He can make the most mundane thing interesting. I remember in a film we did together, he took a box and took it out of a truck and put it on a loading dock, and he made that cool. It was just like.
And what was great about this is that we're going into this whole sequence where the actors are playing characters who are listening to this character named Noland, telling them about his adventures on this planet and kind of what to watch for, and they're just at the edge of their seat, getting any information they can on how he's done it. And it wasn't hard for them to act, because they're sitting there as actors listening to this great actor speak. And so as soon as we call cut, we'd be offset, and then the scene would be replaying, only it'd be in real life. They'd be asking him questions about all the movies he's been in.
Oh yeah, and they'd be looking at him with that same reverence.
Same look.
That same.
So it was they're being real. We were all just sitting there on the edge of our seat listening to him talk. And here's your drill bit. We had a drill bit idea to just show other structures, other pieces of things of ships or other things that have landed on this planet, just to kind of expand the universe a little bit. Again, you don't need to show very much. I mean, we just show that, and then you can imagine, there must be other stuff laying around the planet that we're not going to see maybe until another movie.
Yeah, no, and this concept, whether it was Alex or Kayla or Steve, I don't recall, but I remember in the earlier drafts it was a cave originally, and I kept on seeing coconut bowls.
Yeah, exactly.
And,
I remember that's right. You said
benches carved out of like stone and stuff, and we were just like, oh my goodness. And it was someone at Troublemaker said, hey, what if there's this derelict machinery, and at least it could. The original concept was that we'd keep one side the cave, but it was the exterior of this machine that would give us this cool look. And then I remember running into your office going, dude, we should just put the whole thing in the drill. We should just make it a drill and put the whole thing inside. and you were looking at me going, what are you talking about? This is going to be way too much money. There's just no way. And the people at Troublemaker made it happen.
They made this is the smallest little set. It's not even a set. It's just like
it's like half a wall turned on its side.
When I even you look at it as a set, you go, is they really going to shoot in that? But because Julia lit it by flashlight, what you don't see, your mind fills in. And I remember that was one of the things I warned you about right there when you were talking about the sets for this. They were going to build, because I saw the plans, they all had grand ideas. Now we get to build this huge drill. And I was saying, dude, I'm going to tell you right now what happens. Don't let anybody get carried away. These guys are good guys, and they're great at what they do.
They're going to build you the Taj Mahal.
They're going to build you the sets you have left to do. And I'm telling you, you're going to regret it, having all that set, because we're going to get to the end of the schedule when this is scheduled for. You're going to be out of time by then, and you're going to see the set, and you're going to say, oh, no. You're not going to say, oh, cool. You're going to say, oh, no, because now you got to light it. Now you're going to have 2 seconds to get a performance. And if there was no set, you wouldn't have that problem because you'd be forced to shoot it with a flashlight. So build the set that looks like, and I pointed at an air conditioner and said, build a set that looks like that. So you're forced to not light that thing. And so we met halfway, and sure enough, even though we had some partial sets, we got to those sets, and you're like, oh no,
can't shoot it.
Even with the small set, we were like, oh no, and we just had to fly through them because we were just out of time by then. But they did so much with so little. I mean, these are very small sets. They gave us this is their small version of the set, and look how amazing it is.
And again, it's Steve, it's Kayla, it's their whole crew. All the people that really just bent over backwards to make it happen, and then Eula and his team just lit it just beautifully.
Yeah, it looks fantastic. And when I walk in the set, I went, wow, this is a tiny set. They really did take it to heart and made it really small. But look at this. He just does one wide shot, and it fills the frame, and it looks huge. You think that it's bigger than it is, but that's the entire set right there. Yeah. Really great work.
We'd have to move over half of the set to get to the other side. When you're shooting one direction, you have to pack everything to the other side.
This is all there at Troublemaker. Just all these sets are just stacked right next to each other, and great atmosphere. There's a lot of smoke, a lot of just great low light situations. Yeah. And I love this thing that Laurence did. He added this idea of having himself talking to a dead friend there.
Well, and the madness. It was so interesting how that was born. I remember we had an early conversation, and he was trying to find the character, and he was saying, what if it's some sort of dialect? And I said, well, we already have a character kind of doing that. I'm not sure we want to take. It may feel redundant. Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. He says, well, what if we maybe I could be pitching my voice a little, do something with my. And I said, well, we actually have a character doing something similar to that, and I'm scared. He goes, all right. He goes, well, what if I'm just crazy?
He had so much fun doing this too. I mean, because he's been doing the CSI thing, and he said, I'm doing CSI, and that's great because you got a character and you stay with that character. But this is fun. I'm here just for he's here 2 days.
Yeah, two days.
He plays something completely out there, and you can tell he's just having a blast. And again, you're hanging on every word that he's saying. And this is such a great idea. Because I think originally we had a character similar to this, but we thought maybe we should have this kind of character with him the whole time that can kind of give him information. And your idea of just making it one guy that shows up here at this point, I think was great even for the audience, because now we're getting to hear things about the Predator culture and more of the legend that we're hungry to hear, just like these characters are. We want to hear more. Us having seen this movie since, this series since 1986, are now getting new information. It's like gold. And any new information is just.
And look at the storyteller.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then the storyteller is Laurence. Exactly.
Oh, it's it's such a trip when every time you work with people who you look up to and who you admire and you always want to do a good job for them. You always want to make them proud, and you always want to make sure that they feel they made the right choice. Be it you hiring me, or be it Laurence saying, "All right, let's do Predators." And I just find myself like every time I work with him, I'm always so nervous. Like, I want him to give me the great performance, but I want him to enjoy it too. I want him to be having a good time, and it's
probably great to see him having such a great time.
It's great.
30 yards, their camp.
It's incredible how this entire set is just saturated with these incredible props. Tomlinson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the classic Tommy.
Classic Tommy being the original Propmaster on the original Predator film.
Yeah. Die Hard. I mean, when you list off the movies that he's done,
well,
we're like, wow, you mean you handed the gun over to...
Yeah, I kept on going up to him. All right, so tell me, what happened? What was McTiernan like, or what happened on the set, or what was I was picking his brain for stories.
Oh man, he would show us a prop, and he had this great smile on his face, like, okay, that sword you needed or that gun you needed, and he would hold it up, and it was like, where'd you get that? He just had the most amazing props.
Yeah, can-do attitude.
It was a really great find. It was a great, brought him in. Classic person. I guess. Part of it I wanted to talk about was just the process between, people, have asked, how do you guys work together? And, I've talked about it a little bit. But I think it was really that. It's almost like when you cast, for me, a good actor, they're in character. You were in character for the movie. And it was terrific to see. You asked questions early on about how to do certain things effects-wise, but you storyboarded everything, right?
Yeah, I mean, we made I did over 100 pages of storyboards, and I tried to storyboard everything. I even storyboard a straight dialogue if I have time to, just because I want to have that crutch with me. And then on the floor, you could always go a different direction if you have so many great ideas that come to mind on the floor. You have your DP and your actors who also just throw out all these great ideas. So you do yourself a disservice if you don't listen.
Yeah, you did some really great planning. I loved seeing you sitting there every day doing my storyboards. Like, damn, I don't do all my storyboards anymore. I run out of time. And it's just a great discipline, because I'd come and see you pull off shots that you could have only gotten had you pre-planned them and talked them out with everybody, and everybody's ready. You can't just do some of these things on the fly.
Yeah.
And get that same result. So that kind of pre-planning, I just seen you take that on, knowing how short a time period you had. You really came in this prepared, and that was admirable. I mean, just to see, I think most people would have given up just knowing how much little time they had. They were like, okay, we're just gonna have to wing this. No, you didn't wing it. You went in, and this was all very purposeful. You really planned this out, and you really figured this out.
Well, and that again goes back to just you giving me this chance and trusting in me made me want to work harder and makes me want to go even further. So it's always it's that group effort, and our dynamic was really, like I said, initially intimidating for me, because I didn't know what to expect, but being there and always being an ear and always being available and always having that chance to turn to, that was something that a lot of filmmakers don't have the luxury of. Calling up someone who's done it for a while and has done it well. So
I think a lot of it is the intimidation of, one, you don't know me that well. You just look at my credits and go, okay, this guy likes to do everything on a movie. Is he going to step in here and start telling me where to move and put the camera? I think that's what people might have in mind. And it's like, no, I'm very collaborative. I love other people bringing ideas. I welcome when somebody has a better idea. Hey man, take it. I'll take that idea.
Yeah, and you bring the best out of them by doing that.
Yeah, they want to make you happy. They want to see you say. I say very little when I compliment somebody. I just say cool, and that's the best thing anybody can hear.
Yeah.
How's this? It's cool. There, all right, terrific. And I'd almost wished, because during the pre-production of this, I know it was a little nerve-wracking going into, because on top of it, you didn't need to be worrying about what's it going to be like when we hit the set. I'd wish we'd almost done a screen test of one of these actors, just so you could see how free-flowing and easy it is, because then I think you would have taken a lot of the pressure off. But once we started going and you saw that you were just getting to do your thing, it wasn't even a question that this was your movie and that you were directing it. And I was just loving. I mean, from day we started with that, with him hitting the ground. That was the first shot we got. Him hitting the ground. That opening scene, we started off with great stuff, and people ask how much were you on set. I wasn't on set that much. When I would come to set, I would get there and I would say, "Did you shoot this part already?" And you say, "You did." I'm like, "Oh man, I missed it." I would feel like I wish I could have been there the whole time to see these things as they were being recorded selfishly. I got to come peek at this scene before you. I remember sitting there like a little kid with a big smile on my face because I got to sit in and listen to you directing them, and seeing how you talked to them, and how you got this performance. I didn't do that a lot because I didn't want anyone to feel self-conscious that there was another director sitting there listening to private conversations. But you let me do it on this one because I think you didn't even see me there because I was hidden in in all the other crap that's sitting around there.
Oh no, I saw you.
Well, then you probably saw the smile on my face. I was just so impressed with how you talked to them and how you got this out of them.
It's my favorite shot of Adrien.
This is a great scene, and she's just terrific in it, and it was an important scene.
Well, it's so funny. You got Adrien, Brody, and Alicia Braga, who are probably some of the most talented actors you're ever going to have a chance to work with. And you know what I always find fascinating is they give these incredible performances. And Alicia especially she'd always come up and go after. People would be in tears behind the camera, and she'd come up and go, "Was that okay?
Was that okay? Go ahead and do that again."
I could do it again. It's no problem. And I was like, "Come on,
person
Alicia, it's awesome."
What's so cool about a scene like this? I mean, it's a quiet scene. You look at this, and probably any other director would have taken a day to shoot this. And it'd been all about this scene. It's an important scene. No, you had 10 minutes. This was near the end of the schedule because, again, these are the interiors.
Yeah.
And the interiors are the last thing you shoot because they're cover sets.
No, it was a wide and two close-ups.
And it was run and gun, and there was other scenes that we shot. And one of the things that I really pushed for was to stay on schedule because, and I've just run into this on my own movies, you always end up shooting more than you ever really need. And then you regret it later wishing that you had, that was going to end up on the edit room floor. Why didn't I cut that ahead of time and spend that extra time spent shooting that thing no one will ever see? Shooting the things that they are going to see.
Yeah.
So even as tight as we got the schedule down, and you'd say, I think I need more time, and I just, just for budget reasons more, it's like, brother, I love what you're doing.
Yeah.
I would want you to shoot
any
2
more
more
time.
months. But we just don't have the money, and we can't go over. We really just can't. So we just have to make it work and just, kiss that other version we really want to see and see it on another movie because we just can't do it. And yet, at the end, we still have some deleted scenes. And so
incredibly as that may sound.
Yeah. So we didn't even get to use everything.
It's difficult though. I think in the moment you don't see it.
You don't know back then. Yeah.
And sometimes you do have the luxury of having a laptop and the editor on the floor with you. In this film's case, I know that we didn't have that luxury. Dan came in relatively late in the process to start editing, but that may be something we should do. Just get the computer on the floor and just cut it there.
The only problem with that, even that though, that's really hard because you shoot so out of sequence. In a movie, you're not able to shoot it in order. And a lot of these decisions that you make in the edit room, you really need some distance from the movie, having already shot it. So it's hard to. That's one of the things the director just has to battle with every day. It's like, am I going to make that call? Am I going to just not shoot this scene? And then regret it. There's times I had you shoot scenes that you knew as a director and as a filmmaker that you didn't need. And I said, even though we don't have time, I think we should go ahead and shoot this scene anyway, because I really think we don't want to have to come back. The actors aren't going to look the same if we need it. And there's a loophole in this character coming up when we have this turn with Topher. In particular, you'll see the deleted scene. Of course, it's deleted because Nimrod was right. We didn't need it. But I thought better to have it and not need it than and shoot it. I said, shoot it in 2 shots, but let's have it. And it was one of those things where you go, man, that's a situation where you go, I'd rather spend that time on things that I know we're going to need. And I hated having to push you to do that because I knew that you really did need the time on other scenes. But I just was, again, even me being an editor and knowing the story back and forth, I wasn't sure either. I wasn't sure if we were not going to need that or not.
Well, you were. One cool thing though was that once you did see it in the cut, you immediately. And that was something that was really great in this process. It was never about my decision or your decision. It was something, what served the film
Yeah,
best.
what was going to make the best film.
And that was always something that, and I remember I was thinking to myself, oh, you said to me, well, let's just shoot it, and if we don't need it, we won't put it in.
And I knew you were going to think,
and I was thinking to
he's gonna
myself,
stick it in
he's going to
anyway.
make me stick it in. He's going to make
Which
me
I
stick
wouldn't
it in.
do, yeah.
And then you saw it, and you were like, yeah, we don't even need that in there. And I was just thinking,
Well, the thing is, I
I'm
never saw
so
the scene.
happy.
I never even saw the scene cut. You showed me the movie without it in it,
Yeah.
and then I didn't even ask to see the scene. In fact, I still haven't seen the scene because
No,
I could feel that it didn't. I mean, I saw the movie and it didn't need it.
But I think like a lot of filmmakers hear that a lot, from the studio even, like just shoot
Well,
it and
that
then
might be
we'll see in
very
the
well be
editing
the
room.
case.
and in this case though, it was you saw it and you was like, you know what, you don't need it. And I was so grateful that you were like that you approached it that way.
I think that would be, if you ask people to answer the question, how did you guys work together? I think if there's any fear working with each other, it was the fear of the unknown, of what could possibly happen.
Yeah, and then the things that you created in your mind.
Would Nimrod go off and start making his own movie that's just different than that and be 20 weeks behind schedule?
Yeah, or will Robert come in and bully me on the floor
or say, go ahead and shoot it 2 ways and then we'll decide together later, and then like, sorry, guess what, you don't have final cut, babe. And then pull and then you get locked out of the editing room, and then the studio says, sorry, what Rodriguez says goes.
Yeah, that's
the thing that you just can't explain to somebody, because what they're going to just put, it's a leap of faith. And that was a word we used. That's the phrase we used with each other a lot. Was like, we're taking a leap in faith in hiring you as the director. You're taking a leap in faith as me as the producer, not being the bully later. We have to just trust each other and just go for it. And there was just some really great moments. I mean, I learned so much from this. I got to just spew all kinds of advice and I told you as I was saying it, because I would have to think, okay, I've got to be the teacher here. And I love to teach. I love to teach people because selfishly, you learn more that way. You learn more than your students learn. I mean, I just figured that out by teaching, and that as I was telling you all these things to think about, I would preface it by saying, no, a lot of this I just figured out yesterday as I was coming up with what to tell you. And I'm realizing as I'm saying it now that I should follow my own advice, because it's actually really good advice. But I know I don't even do this myself, but I should. But I'll go ahead and tell you so that maybe you'll pull it off. Maybe you'll do it. Take the advice and you'll find it useful. And I know I need to do that more. And I would give you this advice. It always was very, that you could see it from a producer's standpoint. That's sort of the gift of being able to step back and do this job, was that I got to learn a lot more about the process because I was looking at it with a different set of eyes. And then seeing you figure out these problems that I would normally have to be solving in the trenches. You don't get a view of the trench from in there. And I was able to look at it and see, oh, now I see what he's doing, and now I see better what my job would be next time I go make a movie. I'll be a much better director on the next movie, having seen you do this. I mean, for sure. I mean, it really, really helped me a lot.
You know what was incredible? Again, just going back to this scene, this I think was something that we came up with relatively late in the process of because once the drill sequence was tweaked, we had to kind of readjust it. Mm-hmm. And I love the fact that we were able to slip in this little moment of tension of Topher getting a little broke away from the group and getting lost in the drill. And again, it was going back to that almost classic horror film kind of element of keeping the monsters in the shadows, trying to build the suspense as much as we could.
And you had this great idea of him throwing the flare and hitting him, and he comes out of the darkness. That was really cool. I liked how you did all of this.
Going back to that, by the way, I mean, I remember also, I showed you that first pass in the cut that we did, and you came back the next day and you had a really specific list about ideas, tweaks, cuts, and we were going through this list with Dan Zimmerman, the editor, the following day, and we started to we opened up another timeline in the cut, and we started to try out all these things that you offered up, and I think it was like of all the ideas, I think that there was 95 of the ideas were things that I was completely. I completely agreed with, and I thought that it made the film better. Mm-hmm. And then I remember there was like a few points that I either didn't quite understand, or I was a little bit nervous for whatever reason. I didn't think the performance had it, or I didn't think we had it in the footage. But I remember writing this really, really, really long letter to you, saying, and it took me like an hour to write, of going like, okay, I did all these and I agreed with all these and these definitely helped, but here were a few things that I was concerned about, and I went ahead and wrote paragraphs explaining why I didn't want to go down that route. And I remember you wrote back 2 lines. Yeah, bro, cool. Use whatever you think works and dump the rest. And I just thought, God, I hope it's like this for the rest of my life. You know, it's just like, that's the biggest blessing right there.
Yeah, no, I mean, some of those things are just ideas you throw out, and if they work for you, you use them. And if you don't see it that way, it's really, like I said, it worked for me both ways. It was just sometimes you give suggestions, and it's really, you're the director. It's just like an actor might come and say, hey, how about if I have a gold tooth? And you're like, yeah, no, good idea, but maybe on another movie. Hey, let's try for an idea. But no, I love the staging of all this. You had a great idea of them coming out here and having all this atmosphere flying around that everyone's practically choking on. I don't know what they had here.
Well, that was really interesting, actually. That was Dula and I were watching Alien just right before we started, and we were just thinking about this great scene when they landed on the alien planet in the original Ridley Scott film, and we wanted to just replicate something that was similar and creates a tone that was just as violent. And these particles in the air was it's safe, apparently. They say it's made out of, I think, what they make cornflakes out of.
Right.
And everybody on set was saying, well, cornflakes is great, to put in your mouth and eat, but we're breathing this stuff. What is this stuff going to do to our lungs? Right. And there was no problem with the stuff, but it was raining outside. And we discovered that the stuff in the air and the rain, they don't mix well.
Right.
It turns into super glue, essentially.
So you wonder what it does in your stomach with bad milk. It was, your feet would come out covered in. I said, "Is this black sugar? What is this on my feet?"
Oh man, I could kick in a car window with that stuff that was caked around the shoe.
When I first walked into the set and I was trying to get some off my boot, you went, "Kiss those boots goodbye."
Yeah, that's it.
You
Man.
ain't getting that stuff off.
You burn it off or throw it out.
But look at he's got it in his teeth. He doesn't care. Walt's just like eating it up. He just loves it. There it is. Hey, we ripped up his spine. This is our big spine rip.
Yes. I think Walt's partner, the beautiful partner in life, was on the set the day he got his spine torn out, and she had to sit there and watch the whole thing.
The way you did all this, reveals of the predators, and you don't see them enough to go, man in suit, so it's good. I mean, we just get a glimpse of them, and you get to see the different looks. And then we had 3 different predators. We had the one in front with the jawbones, Mr. Black. We call him Mr. Black. He's the badass. Here's the falconer. He's the one who had the falcon on his shoulder. On his shoulder that would go flying around. We were like, should we have it on his shoulder? Should we have it on his arm? Is it too pirate-like if it's on his shoulder? I don't know. It just looks cool on his shoulder. And now he's. We had a whole extra sequence that we just didn't shoot. There was no time to shoot it, and we're hoping that we wouldn't miss it, where they actually take out that falcon that's searching for them, and it happened around this part. And it's cool that it's not there, because it goes right into the sequence, which is and this is a good place to also mention John Debney's music. But anyway, let's go into this cue right here is actually the Billy's last stand in Predator 1 when he's on the log. Billy the Indian cuts himself across the chest. Here's the same music cue, but done with this Asian twist to it.
Yeah, and this time you see the fight.
And now you see the fight. And we put the music in as Tim, because originally it wasn't in music. Hey, let's try that music here. And we tried it, and we go, okay, this is it.
Oh, I remember like just freaking out. I think that was what exactly happened.
You'd already cut the scene, and the music just laid right over it.
No, Debney was a huge gift. Again, someone who you had collaborated with a few times in the past, and
4 or 5 movies.
Yeah. So again, coming into the process, it was something I was nervous about. Clearly, not having worked with him before, and immediately I realized this is a guy who can pretty much do anything. The amount of the different styles of music that he's able to create. And the other thing that I was really taken aback by was just how I was excited again watching scenes with his music that I had seen 100 times before. And the second his music was on it, it took it to the next level.
Yeah, that's the best when you can finally say, okay, I'm no longer in love with the temp score. Now I love the original music. Thank God. And one thing John was really excited about too is I didn't ask Fox until somewhere midway through the shoot, because I was afraid to get the wrong answer. But I finally said, are we able to use any of the original Predator music, or can we not, or how does that work? And they said, oh no, we got the original music you can use. You can use it from In fact, we even got the charts. It's just like John's eyes lit up too. We're like, God, we got the charts of original Alan Silvestri music, where they're going over the sheet music and checking out what he did, and it's amazing. And we got to use that in different points in the movie when we show the classic Predator, or like in moments like this when you want to bring back the feeling of the first film and just even update the music a little, but really it's so timeless and it's so classic. It's like a Jaws theme, it's so recognizable. And working that in just really brought the movie up to that Predator, made it felt like a Predator movie.
Close! Come on!
All these things here work together so well. This is that little set we had there at this.
Yeah, this is just right outside the hunting camp. It was that I can't recall how big it was, but you could throw a football across it. It wasn't that big, and
it's amazing how these scenes have come together, because we worked. It seemed like we worked on these scenes so long, script stage, and then throughout the process, different versions we would try. We'd edit together different lines and cuts, and trying to get this moment to work, and knowing the scene was important. And at the end of the day, it works really beautiful. There's probably people who say, "What's your favorite scene in the movie?" And I think it's this scene here. It's just performed fantastic. It's something that when you read, you go, "Okay, is this really going to work?" We really were conflicted with, is Royce just going to be too unlikable that he runs off? It just seems like he's going to be a total chicken shit, just taking off, leaving them here, and not. Is it really going to come off like he's, does he just sound like he's just too selfish? Does he become unlikable? Is this the point where he just turns and the audience turns on him? Sometimes it would read that way, and that's where you have to trust that under the right direction and with the right actors, it doesn't come off that way at all.
No, and I also want to just comment on Topher's performance here too. I think that he's someone who throughout the entire film was able to really carry his own with a bunch of very talented actors and interject something into the film that the character again could have been this. He could have gone the wrong way, and I was just really impressed with what he did.
Alicia, right there, that line's the heartbreaker.
What is it worth?
Yeah, she does. It's so fantastic. I didn't tell you that, but when I was first watching this, he showed me the rough cut. I was like tearing up, going, "Wait, what am I doing tearing up in a Predator movie? What, have I not gotten sleep or something?" It's like I can't let the lights come on. These guys see her break my heart like that. And I thought, wait a minute, wrong movie. What's going on? I'm not supposed to be feeling that, but that's what the magic I think this movie is for me. Why I love this movie so much, and I'm able to watch it. I think I've seen this movie more than any of my other movies through the post process because of with the editing and with the effects that we'd have to keep cutting in. I was the effects supervisor, so I had to make sure all the effects were going to work together and line up, and then working with John on the music, and then I'm the sound mixer, so I would end up seeing. Well, I guess in my movies I watched them a lot in the mixing stage, but it was odd how much I saw this movie over and over again. I never got tired of it. It was so fun to watch, and the performance is so great. And this is like one of my favorite scenes too. Is I went off this planet.
Oh,
just the way he said. I mean, you told me I missed the shooting of this. I missed this moment. I wanted to be there for this moment because I knew this was the one you were most afraid of, and just as a producer, I wanted to be there to support you for this.
Well, it's that potential buddy moment that you want to avoid.
The way he reads this, I went off this planet. I just love that line reading. He sounds so badass.
Yeah, this Pred profile.
And I was like, oh shit, I wasn't there, man. I'm sorry. How was that scene? Did it come off? And you had this big smile on your face. He said, I think it's really cool. It really came out good. Agent was great. He was just on it. And it doesn't feel like the buddy thing. I mean, you really got around that, and it feels great. And you keep the Predator scary, and you have him grab him at the throat in a really nice, strong It's gonna fuck you up way.
No, bro, and you know, it really just again, Brody carried it. Brody was able to sell it and just make it work, and that's the thing. Where as a filmmaker, you read a line and you go, "Oh my God, I hope this is gonna work," you know, and you just you can kind of imagine the shot and you could imagine what you're gonna be asking the actors to do, but it's really when they start interjecting their magic. And Eula gave me that awesome close up, so it was. I just sat back and watched the magic. It was awesome.
Yeah.
This effect became one of my favorite in the film. It's so she says we're not dead yet, and as the sound effect of the thing comes up, there's this no.
Wow,
It's
cool.
really terrifying.
That's cool. Clever scream here. It's in the trailer. Nice. That's a great movie scream. She does it all. Elise. Hats off to Elise.
Hats off, man. We were throwing her down lava rocks. She was cutting herself up.
She's amazing. She'd come and I'd see this, her finger was like all screwed up, her nail was black and it was like practically ripped off. And I was like, wait, what happened to your hand? And because she was talking like she always does. And she goes, talking about pineapples usually. Oh, I love pineapples. You just eat the pineapple and everything will be better. And then I said, what's wrong with your finger? She goes, oh, it's nothing. I just cut my finger, but it's okay. It's good for the character. It's just so lighthearted.
I know.
Everything was just easy breezy, Brazilian attitude. It was she was
Awesome.
so
And that
awesome.
that
People
work ethic.
loved her. Work ethic. Hard. I must carry the real gun. It's be good for the character. Everything was good for the character. It's just unbelievable. She was just, I just want her in every movie. She's just so awesome.
Yeah, if I had to use her as my lead actress in every film
For the rest of
here
your
on out,
life.
I'd be cool with it.
I was like, oh, cool, okay. And then this sequence is just one of those things where you're like, okay, how do we get these guys not to look like the same guy, even though they got different helmets and people who know what the original Predator looks like. And it was a tough thing to crack, and you came up with a really great idea that I probably never in a million years would have thought of. In fact, when you mentioned it, here I was just looking at the ticker tape of money going, I don't know, we should add effects yet. I don't know. When we ended up being under budget, so we ended up having the money to go do this idea you had, which was have him on the fritz,
flicker. The fritz.
so that when he gets hit, we can tell even in the dark, because we needed this dark, moody lighting, because we just didn't want to have it lit up. Julia's idea was a great one, just to keep it very moody and just lit by some firelight, and be able to tell the difference between them. So you always see, there he is, as you always know where he is.
Yeah.
It was really well done.
Well, and it was also it just felt organic to the story, being that he had been so messed up and his devices were laying in the mud, and there was probably some crazy battle that ensued that we never saw.
Mm-hmm. And then just to tell, film students how it goes, Nimrod had no big effects experience coming into this movie. And by the time we're doing this sequence, he was like directing all the effects, telling them, like, see this little flicker here? I think we need to get a little search here. I mean, you'd think he was a vet of 20 effects movies. And it was really amazing to see the learning curve and how quick it could happen on a project. And that's why when people say, I want to make movies, what advice do you give a filmmaker? I say, just start making them, because you learn so much by doing, not by, you can take classes, you can read books, and all that's great. You can watch films, but really on the job, doing it, solving problems on a daily basis. And then, I don't call them problems, actually. We try to call them challenges. If they're challenges, there's never problems. How do you solve the challenge? And you figure it out creatively, and like that. Nimrod had a very creative, way to fix this challenge, and that's how you learn. And by the end, you're a vet, man.
I guess you made it.
You could do it over again. Would you make the same choice?
Yes.
I I would look back on these movies that I had done in my diaries and going, wow, I mean, look at me bitching and moaning about stuff that was happening, and what a problem to have. Actually, it all turned out good. The energy was completely going in the wrong direction. Instead of putting it towards what's wrong, put it towards what can I do. And it's advice that I've tried to give. And I think I told you this as I went, because I constantly forget to do this myself, and it's. A friend of mine told it to me before, because I would say, God, I had this problem. This one crew member, he comes into me with all these problems every time he walks in, and I try to listen, and I'm bitching him out 5 minutes into, not even 5 minutes, 5 seconds into what he's saying. And then he leaves the room, and I feel bad, and then I think, okay, I'm not going to do that next time. And then he walks in with, just an extra little thing to say, and okay, here it comes. I'm not going to do it. And he starts talking, and I'm like, God, and I start rattling on him again. And he finally said, well, the thing is, you're worried about the what instead of the how. So instead of instead of listening to what the problem is and reacting to what he's saying, you got to think instead, hold back and think, how am I going to react to what he's saying? Because the problem is the problem. No matter what he's saying, that's just how things are. That's not going to change. How you're going to react to that is how you're going to deal with that is really what the question you should be answering and where you should be focusing your energy. So when you're saying, I need more time, that's me. I heard myself do that a million times as well. I'm going, no, that's the what. You don't get more time. So instead of
let's figure out how to do what we need to do,
and just put the energy there, and it's going to be fine. And let's not worry about it, because these were the problems we would have begged to have had 10 years ago when we had no jobs. It's like, I would love to have those problems, and those challenges, and try to figure it out. And I would try to put the energy in the right place. And you took that to heart instantly, and went back in. You shot what you needed to get, and moved on, and you pulled it off, man. And I just know what that feels like. You just are so drained of energy. You're not getting sleep. You have to make sure you get sleep when you're shooting, because it really throws your perspective off. You got to eat healthy as much as you don't want to, and I'm the biggest culprit of that. You watch pictures of me in a movie, you see me thin at the beginning, round as a beach ball by the end, because I'm eating fried chicken and anything that makes me happy, any comfort food. You're so uncomfortable shooting, because shooting is the hardest. People ask what's the hardest part of making a movie. It's the shooting, because you've hired so many people, so much money is being spent in that amount of time. Post-production, there's very few people around, and you make your own schedule. But here you're having to answer a million questions day in and day out, all day long, in a very forced, tight schedule, because of the way we do things at Troublemaker, we just make you do it that way, because it is humanly possible. It's not ideal, and it's not usually how people shoot. But it's just how you got to do it to get the job done. We get more creative freedom that way. We're able to make any movie we wanted. Fox completely let us make this movie, because we were just under the radar. We were there. They called us their golden child of a movie, because we were given the same budget as the last Predator movie, which with inflation would mean we had probably 10 million less than that. Yeah. Because, we've got other bigger movies that we have to go worry about that have budget problems. So you do your thing. So we had to just stay on budget, and we were able to do anything. But
and you know what? If that's the biggest challenge a filmmaker has to face, I mean, I find myself, and I catch myself complaining sometimes about this or that, and they want me to do this, or they're not letting me do that. And I remember I was talking to a guy, I don't recall who, but he said the smartest thing to me. He says, wait, let me get this straight. He goes, you make flicks? You make movies? And I go, yeah. And he goes, and you get paid to make movies? And I go, yeah. And he said, I don't see the problem.
What's the problem?
And, I think I have to remind myself of that every once in a while.
You are a good man after all.
No. I'm not.
You did this cool, like this sequence here. This was the thing that we didn't know we'd pull off at all. We were reading the script, and the character that Topher's playing, which is why we had to pick someone, completely that you wouldn't see turning into this. And that's why people would say, why are they hiring Topher Grace? He's not a predator. I mean, he's not a killer. And he doesn't mix in with, he's not, when you had Arnold and now we have Topher, and it's like, okay, when they see the movie, they understand. Yeah. And he's also just he's just a great actor. He really pulled off some terrific stuff in this. I'm really pleased with what he did.
There's a lot of subtlety that Topher dropped throughout the film in his performance that, it may even take a second viewing to catch some of the more subtle details that he threw in, but they were great. Some of the big conversations, and I learned a lot about just the process. through some of our conversations with Topher. And it was interesting because I remember trying to interject humor and when to interject humor and understanding when to interject humor. Those were all interesting conversations that we had together and helped the film make it what it was.
I would have to go back to show you, but yeah, that shot, I loved how you shot that. When he stands up into the frame behind Alicia and Adrien when he's first lifting her.
Yes.
And he's saying they drugged her.
Yeah.
That's just a great shot. And the look on his face, the timing of that, I thought, wow, that probably would have taken me 50 takes. He probably did it in one.
No.
But it was, it's an amazing photographic moment too, just how you move the camera, how you staged it, and how you pull that off. This is a great idea. I liked how they booby trapped.
I love this idea. That blade was your idea. That was something that I was kind of reluctant to go with initially because I thought, why would he be doing that? And now it's something that I love. Just it actually sells black even further. Completely disturbed.
Yeah, he's like, we decided to have these predators not have any real code like the original ones. Like if you're unarmed, they'll probably kill you anyway. Or the classic predator, at least, if you don't have a gun, he probably won't kill you. But these guys, we just wanted them to be more brutal.
So this was the big shot for Adrien's first reveal.
This is what Adrien built up for. And if you know Adrien, you look at this, and
that's crazy.
If you knew what Adrien looks like normally, he's about half that size.
He's bulked up huge for this.
And he was... And for somebody with his body type, it's very hard to do that. And it was just, like I said, we hired him a week and a half before shooting. So he had to do this throughout the shoot, every day in the gym.
Yeah, watching me eat burgers and fries, and he's sitting there eating like steamed vegetables and chicken.
And he said, push this stuff, push to the end of the schedule, and the end of the schedule, the end of the schedule. And then somewhere around the midway through the movie, I realized that he didn't know weather in Texas. I said, you realize the end of the schedule means it's going to be freaking freezing outside. He went, what?
It was so cold.
It was so damn cold.
It was so cold, the puddles of water were frozen in the camp.
It was the coldest winter we've had in a long time in Texas. I mean, even guys, the crew that I've worked with before were looking at me like, what is this weather? Have we ever shot in this weather before? I said, yeah. But it was never this cold at this time of year. I mean, we've shot during these months, but it was never this cold.
Our performers in the suits, great actors. We had Brian Steele and Derek Mears and
these guys, Nicotero brother.
Carrie.
We haven't talked much about Nicotero. I mean, that reveal you just saw of the Predator revealing himself. I know even one of the crew guys, Nicotero's longtime crew members, even said, I do not want to be part of this movie because I do not want to be part of the movie that screwed up the Predator series because you guys do not have enough time to make these suits. They're going to be shooting already 3 or 4 weeks and still not have suits, and we're going to be basically the first designs we get. That's what they're going to shoot. That's going to be a disaster. And then he changed his mind like the next day and said, I got to be a part of this.
Was this Shannon?
It was Shannon. Yeah. Shannon worked on the original Predator too, because he was on the part of the reshoots, and Shannon came back on, and they did this amazing job. They never want us to tell people how quickly they did the suits, because then everybody would want everything done that fast. But it's just because we have a shorthand with these guys. They love the series. They were so into making it work. Had tons of ideas on how to put pieces together at the last minute if need be, if we needed to change anything. And kept it very flexible. At one point, I needed to resize an entire helmet, and they just the next day had another one down there. I mean, they were just relentlessly putting this stuff together for us.
And again, seeing their passion, and that's something that I really hope comes across. A film made by fans, for fans.
Yeah.
Nicotero, Shannon, Robert, myself, Adrien, everybody involved. We all loved the movie Predator, and we wanted to do it justice.
People, say, well, these reboots and remakes, and why are you guys doing one? And once you get past the whole discussion of studios have no creative ideas, original ideas anymore, the conversations you have are actually very creative. It's like, how do you bring back something like this and present it to an audience in a new way?
Yeah, what are the elements to keep? What are the elements to drop?
I mean, it's actually an amazing creative exercise to have, and you have to push yourself in a lot of ways for this type of movie, because the last few movies weren't pleasing to audiences, and And so it would be very easy to go, okay, we don't have to do very much and we'll be better than that. But we set the bar very high for ourselves to be right up there with the original, and wanted to push it as far as we could, and just be as creative. Look, it's just such a great reveal.
Yeah.
That's an ugly mother. And I love how you shot all this. I mean, this was down to the wire. We're losing Adrien that same day. He had to go off to another movie.
Yeah.
And
was
this was your
freaking out.
idea to have the beheading twice. I remember at one point the studio thought maybe the studio had some notes for the movie, and none of them were bad. They were all good to think about, and they never forced anything on us. And one of the notes was, well, if they cut the head off the other predator, then it seems like a repetitive beat. And your logic to it was, that's how you kill a predator. That's just shows. I mean, what was it that you said? The way you phrased it was, that was the ritual, or
And I think that he was taking his place in the hierarchy by doing so. You know, I thought that was almost necessary.
yeah. And and I think we just did one adjustment it satisfied both things. We kept the head cutting off their first predator, and then in the second one, we changed it so that the head fell back really slowly. So you're just wondering, can Adrien pull it off? Did he pull it off? Did he pull it off? And then the head falls. You go, yes, he
And
did.
how satisfying.
It's so satisfying. It becomes one of the best moments is seeing that he actually got the head off. Now, this is an interesting thing. We had two endings for this. Originally.
Mm-hmm.
I had suggested killing off the girl, and then you fell in love with that idea.
I love that idea. I thought it was so different and so unexpected, and especially in Hollywood films, I thought that it would be the right way to go.
Then I fell in love with Alici's portrayal of the character, and I came back and I said, you know what? I changed my mind. I don't want to kill her anymore.
I remember not being happy about that, and I was fighting it.
Right, that was one of those things where I said, let's go ahead and shoot it twice. And I said, but I tell you, I'm pretty sure when you're shooting it, you're going to feel which one is the right one to go, whichever way it goes. So
well, and that's actually how it went
so
down.
I think you were worried that I don't want to spend time shooting two whole endings. And I said, go ahead and let's schedule for two, but you're going to feel which one is the right one as you're doing it, whichever way that is. And you're not really going to have to shoot two, but let's go ahead and schedule for two. And and then that happened that way. I think you felt that this was the better ending.
Well, it was funny. I think we started out shooting the ending where Alici's not there. She's passed, and he's standing there alone. And it was that, I think we referred to it as that almost Conan moment. The warrior standing victorious alone, and I thought that's what the film needed. And the second I saw them standing together, it felt complete. It felt like he had hope. It felt like she had hope. Right. Whereas standing alone, it was, you're the king of death. Congratulations.
Right. I think the way we started our relationship on this movie, where it was always going to be a back and forth, nothing dictated, nothing in either direction, is what allows for stuff like that to happen. Because you can even then say, or I can say, I know I changed it to her dying, but now I've changed my mind. I want to go the other way. You can then come back and say, well, I want her dead. And yet you feel free enough to be able to go, hey, you know what? I don't want her dead anymore.
No, and like I said, it's not my idea.
You don't feel like you have to protect.
It's not your idea. It's what's best for the movie.
I like this idea of yours. Putting the original.
Oh, bringing Long Tall Sally back?
Bringing Long Tall Sally back.
I remember just loving that song when I saw the original film.
And that's the only real lightness that comes in the movie is at the very end. It just sort of deflates, that whole tension that was there in a great fun way. It's just been tense all the way up to now, and then suddenly, party time.
Hey, Mr. Rodriguez.
Senor Antal.
Thank you for letting me direct Predators.
Dude, thank you so much for directing the hell out of this movie, because I now have an incredible movie that's got my name somewhat associated to it, in a movie that I'm probably more proud of than just about anything I've done.
Oh, come on,
and
bro.
Really, and I really love this movie, and now that it's part of my filmography in some odd way, is a real gift to me that you gave back to me. So threw it to you, and you tossed it right back, man, with gold all over it. Thanks, bro.
Until the next one.
Until the next one.